What is going on, everybody? Well, has anyone seen any news lately? Anyone aware of stuff going on in our industry? Can you guess what we're going to talk about today? Well, if you thought we were going to talk about the NAR settlement, you were right. I hope today maybe we can get some clarity on exactly what's going on, and I can give you guys a few points on maybe why this isn't as dramatic and such a big deal as it might seem. Let's get into it. Okay, you guys, Cole Harvey with Lifetime Realty. Awesome to see you. Before I get into this really big topic about the NAR settlement, again, as always, if you guys are enjoying our content, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button, ding that like bell below, and leave us a comment here on the channel and catch us every single week for new content. Okay, let's talk about the NAR settlement. I want to preface this by a couple of things. Number one, I have to say that in my time as being a managing broker, I have gotten to build relationships and be part of different groups with brokers from all over the country. And they have become good friends in some cases, mentors in others, sometimes both. And we all communicate, and we've all been talking about this since the lawsuit started last year in 2023. And over the last week since the settlement, I have noticed that a lot of my friends are really, really concerned and stressed over what's going to happen with all this and how that's going to affect their business and their agents and their brokerage. And I got to say, I feel really bad that everyone's going through it right now, and I understand exactly what they're talking about. But I have to say, as someone who operates in California, and for all of you guys that are also operating in California, really things aren't all that different. So I want to give you a couple of examples of how things are just kind of going to be more the same, and why, in fact, I think this is going to be an awesome thing for everybody. So if you can give me a minute of your time, let's go ahead and talk about it. Just a quick overview to catch you up on what's going on with this settlement. So as you may or may not have known, I'm sure you do, there was a huge lawsuit back east in Missouri against the National Association of Realtors and a bunch of national real estate brands. That was a class action lawsuit brought on by attorneys representing homeowners who felt like they had either been unfairly forced into paying higher fees, or that the agents had cooperated to manipulate market rates to try to control pricing and our compensation. And they're suing all of these brokers and their agents to be repaid for their overpayment in commission. So that sounds like a horrible thing, which it is. I'm not going to get into the validity of it. I think we all kind of have our own opinions on that, and we all understand how litigation works in this country. But anyways, the fact is the lawsuit concluded, and the National Association of Realtors and the real estate brokerages, which included Keller Williams, RE/MAX, All of Realty, they lost. The judgment from the trial and from the jury, with fees and everything else, was going to work out to penalties upwards of, like, I think $4 billion, some humongous amount of money that nobody has. When you have a lawsuit and when you lose, you have the right to appeal. The National Association of Realtors decided, instead of going through the full appeal process, that they would offer a compromise or a settlement. So instead of paying the $4 billion, which I'm sure they don't got, they offered, I think, $400 million. I have to double check, to be honest. It doesn't matter. It's much less than what was awarded in the jury. And also it comes with some procedural changes, and I think that's what really has people nervous right now. And so I want to talk about those specifically, what it means for us here in California and what it doesn't mean, and how it's going to help us going forward. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So the first thing that's really making agents nervous is that part of the settlement is that on a national scale, compensation is not fixed or guaranteed, meaning you can represent a buyer or a seller, for that matter, on a property, and you are not required to be paid. And moreover, the MLSs are not allowed to have a minimum commission offered or any of that kind of stuff. That's all going away. And in fact, on a national level, they're going to be removing the line item on our MLSs that states how much commission is being offered to the buyer's agent. That's freaking everybody out. They're like, my God, how am I gonna make money? Well, let's think about this and let's break it down a little bit. Number one, in California, whether you guys realize it or not, we are not guaranteed any kind of minimum commission. Moreover, buyer's agents are not required to be paid commission at all. If you guys have been in business for any amount of time, you know that you're gonna get paid your commission rate based on whatever that seller is offering in the MLS. And I have seen anything from 3 to 4% to flat rates like $500 over my time in this business. So in California, nothing is really changing. For my friends in other states, this is really frightening. But for us, we've never been guaranteed anything. It's not a big deal. We just operate under whatever the listing agent is offering. The other thing is that we are going to be required now to have a buyer representation agreement. That kind of makes some agents nervous because, I don't know, they're not comfortable maybe explaining during their buyer's presentation why they should be hired, or they're not good at communicating the value they bring to that person's transaction. But I can tell you, as a full-time agent for 16 years and as someone who manages a brokerage of at least 50 agents at a given time, my number one complaint I get from agents, especially early in their career, is that they met a buyer, whether it's an open house or referral or however they met them, and they showed them a whole bunch of properties for a long time, and then they thought they were really close with them, and then out of nowhere they found out that they just went to an open house and wrote an offer with the listing agent and they didn't get paid and they're bummed. By requiring a buyer's representation agreement before you even show a house, you guys are never going to have to worry about wasting your time with a client that isn't committed to you ever again. And maybe think about it this way. You wouldn't hire a photographer or call a staging company or get flyers printed or put up a for sale sign in front of a person's home unless they give you a listing agreement, right? Why are we treating buyers the same? Why is it such a big deal to require the same level of commitment from our buyer clients? I have a feeling this is going to make things a lot easier for you guys to be more productive, and it'll weed out people that are wasting your time or aren't loyal or recognizing the value you bring to their transaction. Okay, so the flip side of that is part of getting that buyer representation agreement signed is going to require all of us to have the buyers agree to what we are going to be paid when we close. And the way the contract's written, we're going to set it up that the buyer is going to pay us. Now look, we all know that 95% of the time we're paid something by the listing agent, and here in California we are used to doing transactions and just getting paid whatever they're offering. Yeah, depending on the market, sometimes you can ask for more, but like reality is, this is no different. Everyone's freaked out because they're like, my God, sellers are going to list their home and they're going to be stoked because they don't have to pay, they only have to do their commission in half, right? They don't have to pay the buyer side anymore. But let's really think about that for a second. Do we really think that's how it's going to play out? Like, yeah, sure, in the short term, you might have some sellers that are excited because they think it's going to save them some money on their closing costs if they only have to pay their agent. But if you guys know how to market and sell property, whatever kind of property it is, you should know that in order to get the highest price for a property, that there's no secret sauce other than presenting it the best way possible, merchandising that property and getting it ready to look great for the public. But the only way to get the highest price is to get and attract multiple offers so that they can bid up against each other and then land at the highest price possible. 95% of all of the closings in the United States are what we call cooperative closings, meaning that there is two agents, sometimes more, right? But there's at least two agents in the transaction for each principal, buyer and seller. How are we going to eliminate 95% of the transactions if one of the parties is not going to be compensated for their services? Personally, I don't really see it playing out that way. I think you're going to have isolated cases where, yes, sellers think they're going to get away with it, but then when no one shows them their house, and when no one brings their buyer, and then when they sit on the market for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, they're going to figure out that communicating a competitive compensation amount to the buyer's agent is an investment in their marketing that will help attract as many agents with qualified buyers to their home, and that will ultimately translate to them getting the highest price. It's also going to be on us to really communicate that to sellers when we sit down to list their properties also, and make sure that they understand that the secret to getting the price they want is maximizing exposure, and so it's worth the investment of offering a competitive fee. The other part of that is many buyers are not going to be in the position to afford to also pay their agent's commission on top of their closing costs and their down payment and their EMD they have to put up front. So how's that really going to work? How are we truly going to protect the consumer if we're going to eliminate the ability of half of the buyers from having adequate representation if they can't afford it? So what I think is going to actually happen is what has always happened. Professional agents are going to be able to communicate to their sellers why they have to offer a competitive commission. Buyers agents are going to have to just learn to communicate to their buyer clients that in almost all or most of the circumstances that their professional fee is going to be paid by the seller anyways. But regardless, before they write an offer on any property, we're still going to know if or not that seller is paying their representative before they choose to submit the offer, because just because they're going to remove the commission dollar percentage line item from the MLS, the offering to the agents is still going to be communicated in the private notes like any other seller concession. So we're still going to be completely transparent with our buyers, and they're going to know if they have to pay us or not before they pull the trigger. What I think is going to happen is all of the sellers that aren't offering a competitive rate are going to sit and get low prices, and the market's just going to figure it out and we're going to be fine. So don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. Now, before I let you guys go, I want to close up with one thought, and that is that as long as I have been a licensed real estate professional, literally every single year I have heard about some sort of boogeyman that's going to come and ruin our jobs or take away our business or make it harder for us to do business, whether it's Zillow or Redfin or the iBuyers a couple years ago or whatever it is, right? At the end of the day, best agents and the best real estate professionals are true consultants that help get their clients through an enormously consequential financial transaction. The professionals will always get paid what they deserve. So all you guys need to worry about is staying off YouTube, ignoring social media, not listening to all the doom and gloom, and just focus on leveling up how you communicate with your clients. And I guarantee you things are not going to be all that much different than they've always been. In fact, you guys are going to have way more free time by not having your time wasted by people that aren't committed to working with you to generate different types of business or to grow into different lead sources. It's going to be awesome. So let's all take a breath and let's just go forward and be successful and continue to level up every day. So there you guys have it. This is a fluid situation. Things are changing. My understanding is that these MLS rule changes are going to go into effect mid-July of 2024, so in a few months from now. But honestly, this whole settlement process is going to change, and it's going to take a couple years before it really all shakes out. So expect the news to come furious and things happen, a lot of updates, and it's going to be okay. Just focus on your grind, focus on helping the people that are hiring you, and just focus on being better every day, and you guys are going to be awesome. So thank you so much for listening to me today. I want you guys to feel cool and empowered to go out there and crush it in this market no matter what. As always, if you like what you're seeing here, leave me a comment below, smash that subscribe button, hit that like bell, catch us here on the channel every single week. Let's continue to level up together.